Hello, good morning and happy Saturday from the UK and happy Friday evening to my beautiful friend in Portland, Oregon in America. This evening for Saralise and morning for myself, we are going to be talking all about, are you in control of your mind? A really, really pivotal subject, I think, right, as we're stepping into even more crazy times. So I just wanted to give a brief introduction for those people. I know that I'm getting new subscribers each and every day at the moment. My name is Lucy Davis and I am an intuitive transformation coach, and I am based in Surrey, United Kingdom. And Saralise is somebody who I am very, very lucky to have crossed paths with about 2.5 years ago now in the beautiful sacred space of Glastonbury here in the UK. I was actually running a retreat down there. And I have this huge calling, as many of you know, to go and travel different places. And I was in Somerset and I was called massively to go to Glastonbury. I went there and, well, what can I say? From the minute I arrived and the minute our paths actually crossed, there was a huge, huge shift that took place for the greater good, I truly believe, as well. And since then, magic, it worked. And although since then, Saralise has actually moved back to America, we know that we are divinely connected. We are constantly doing work together. We were actually doing some work together last night in my sleep state, which was really quite interesting. Maybe we'll get to that later. And we're incredibly blessed, and Saralise has very kindly offered to give up her Friday evening this evening to talk all about, are you in control of your mind, because it is such an important subject. So my beautiful Saralise, I would love to hand over to you just so that you can introduce yourself properly, because I haven't done you anywhere near the justice that you deserve by that intro, but I think it's important to just kind of connect the dots for people.
Sure. I'm Saralise Shekinah Sophia. Nice to meet all of you, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing us in our conversation. I'm a doctor of vibrational medicine, and I come from some deep levels of control of the mind, if you will. And so we're going to talk about that today, and what I've done in terms of my own growth and my own healing, and where it has led me to in terms of my own, what's the word I'm looking for, Lucy? My own spectrum of healing that I have come into. There's the better way to say it. And I have my own system of healing now called full spectrum healing. So I think that's the best way to start it out. I'm not really...
Okay, so
I don't really have a way to introduce myself. Oh, and then I have a mentorship program. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, called jewelsofthejedi.com. And I mentor people in magic, and not your typical magic, but magic of the soul of source. So I'm a priestess as well, and a reverend. So I have all these things in my toolbox, right? I'm a master Reiki teacher. I've done all these things in my life. Feng Shui consultant, I was an actress at one point. I've been a jewelry designer, a knitwear designer, an artist. I have an oracle deck.
The singing is amazing.
Oh yeah, I sing too. I forgot about that.
I just want to share, actually, before we step into Are You in Control of Your Mind, I just want to share, actually, what happened when we met in Glastonbury. Now, for some of you, you may have heard the story before, but probably only a handful of you maximum. So, like I said, I was called to go to Glastonbury. It was like a bolt of lightning came through me, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go. And like I said, I was supposed to be running a retreat, and the lady that was with me was like, seriously, we need to get ready. And I'm like, we need to go.
Really?
That's the way that I work. When I gotta go, I get on a plane. It doesn't matter what happens. Nothing stops me. I am gone. Yep. In this instance, it was Glastonbury, and I arrived in Glastonbury. I parked my car, and I was like, I don't know what I need to do here. And I just said to myself, take me where you intuitively need to take me. And I'll never forget it. I was walking up the high street, and all of a sudden I was just drawn to stop on this corner, the top corner where you used to live.
Top of the hill,
I
yeah.
didn't know you at the time, and I just stopped and I was like, I don't know why, I just feel like I need to be on this corner for a minute. I just feel like I need to stand here. And the lady that I was with was completely asleep at the time, and she was like, all right, whatever, kind of weirdo.
Yeah, she's like, oh God, here we go.
Absolutely. Anyway, we walked up the tour, the Glastonbury tour, had an amazing experience up there. I was literally vibrating with the heart chakra there. I was literally vibrating on the floor. It was just amazing. I came back down, went into this gorgeous little vegan restaurant, and Saralise walks in and she's like, oh, there you are, kind of thing. And I'm like, who's she talking to? And it was literally like, you don't remember me, do you? And I'm like, no. She's like, well, and that was it. That was it, wasn't it? It was from then, we've, you know.
And I had no reason, to say this to her. I'd never met her before. I mean, ever.
No.
In this life.
No, not in this
life. But it was just like, I looked at her and I was like, oh, this is my appointment. Like, why am I coming into this? Oh, right. Okay. So that's literally what happened to both of us, is we ended up in the same place, and it was closing. Remember, like, the restaurant was closing and we ended up staying there and talking until they kicked us out.
That's right. And then
we went to another place.
We did, and we went to the Abbey, and it was just profound. And that's why I wanted to share this story. We went in the Abbey. And
the Glastonbury Abbey, explain what that is so they understand.
Yes.
It's in the center of town.
Yeah.
It's the ruins of the old original town. It's called the Glastonbury Abbey because it was an abbey, like a church abbey. And it's these, oh my God, these buildings are so magnificent. They're huge. And they're just like, there's an archway, but it's all torn off on one side, and then there's a wall, and then it's like everything is,
it's beautiful, and the energy.
It's so beautiful.
So, it's just so profound.
Stunning.
So, Saralise took myself and Donna into this abbey, and we put our hands on one of the altars, and all of us just go on a bit of a journey, and we feel a lot of the stuff coming through because it's very powerful energy. And then we went into this beautiful, I'm going to call it a temple. It wasn't at all, but it was just stunning. It was like one of the what they called, it's not an altar, what's it called, I can't even think, but basically we went into this certain area, and Saralise started singing, and literally everybody stopped, and it was just the most beautiful experience ever. And that's why I wanted to touch on it when I said about your singing. It was
make me cry.
Yeah, no, it was so beautiful. And Donna, when she watches this, she will get emotional too, because both of us have spoken about it a number of times. But it was enchanting. Literally everybody just stopped what they were doing. And I think this is important for what we're going to be talking about today, right?
Yeah.
Everybody just stopped. I've got goosebumps all over me. Everybody just stopped, shut their eyes, and just started breathing. And I was just drawn to hold my heart. It was one of those moments that I will never forget till the day that I pass. And it was a moment that I had to experience to remember where Saralise and I knew each other from before. Like, she knew, but I was still in the early, I was figuring stuff out. I was still putting it together. I was still very corporate and, but that singing. And then what happened off the back of that was we went outside and we did some meditation, and I actually stepped through a really heavy past life, a really, really heavy past life. And I think, the reason I wanted to share this today is, first and foremost, when you go through maybe churches or abbeys or anything like that, and you get a connection to a feeling that you're not used to, go with it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of us that go, oh no, that's silly. No, we can't believe that. Go with it. Your soul knows.
Relax into it.
Absolutely. And when you can do that, like for me, when I was stepping through that meditation, it was freaking me out. Like I was being murdered, and it was totally freaking me out. But now I've stepped through it. I've released that.
Right.
And I think that's
on a cellular level. So it's really important for people to understand that even if it's another body embodiment that you were in at the time of the trauma that took place,
in yourself,
what's important to understand is that it's stored in our DNA.
Yeah.
And once our DNA is opened to a certain level, then what happens is all that information starts to boil up to the surface. And so let's say you're walking down the street and you've been on this road 1,000 times before, right? And then all of a sudden, you're having this experience and you're having a flashback of another incarnation where you had this experience and something happened to you, a trauma happened in that place. You could have walked down that street 10 times prior to that and never had that experience until that moment, right? And then boom, it's there and you have to relive it on some level. You don't always have to relive all of your past life traumas. However, one thing that happens with the level of light that's being deposited on the planet right now and what's happening in regards to that, the amount of cosmic light that is being deposited is what's coming. The light is shedding onto the darkness. So whatever is there that is not in alignment with your truest expression of spirit is going to reveal itself and come up to be revealed and healed and integrated into your embodiment so that you no longer have a charge around it energetically.
And there's a couple of things here that I just want to touch on, and I actually think that
Sure.
leads us into what we need to be speaking around today.
Right.
So just last night, I had a conversation around people's phobias, and people's phobias are very similar to what Saralise has just been explaining.
Absolutely.
If you have got a really bizarre phobia and you have got no idea this lifetime why you've got a phobia, it's stored in your cells from previous life.
Like drowning, for example, or spiders, or arachnophobia.
My phobia was being bitten by a snake. I used to get ingrown toenails as a child, but they only ever came up after I dreamt that I'd been bitten on my toe by a snake. And it's really fascinating. So I've gone back and done the work to release it now. So now I don't have a phobia of snakes, but I wanted
and you still have ingrown toenails?
Yeah, and I've got great toenails. I haven't had an ingrown toenail. But this is where I think that steps into beautifully what we want to talk about.
Right.
Recently, some of you will know that I have stepped up and I've become one of the leaders for Freedom for the Children UK. Now, I am very blessed this lifetime. I have not suffered any abuse. I have not had any trafficking experiences or anything like that. However, I have this thing in every one of my cells that I know at some point through my lineage, through my past lives, I have experienced that because, and I feel like I'm going to get emotional. I feel so protective over every single woman, man, and child on the planet where this is concerned. Abuse at any level is not okay. And I know this protective mama bear energy that I have is because I know what that was like. But I am lucky and I have escaped this lifetime. You know, maybe it was lifetime I escaped, but I haven't experienced it this lifetime. So I feel, you know, when people say to me, why are you using your voice for this? Like, I've been called a conspiracy theorist about 1 million times in the last week through publications and newspapers and mainstream media.
Oh, honey. She's just starting this journey, just saying.
You know, but this is fascinating because I don't take it personally because I understand. I've got a really inner knowing. I understand that this is at a cellular level and this is my responsibility because I've been given the gift of communication this lifetime. It's my responsibility to help raise awareness, lift the veil, become a truth, somebody who can speak the truth. Even if you don't like it or you don't know it right now, I want to lift, you know, the awareness, the collective consciousness on these subjects, which is why I am doing these kind of conversations.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think this beautifully leads into, are you in control of your mind? Okay. Now, Saralise, I'd like to take you back if that's okay. You know, and we're both probably going to get emotional through this chat. And I'm just, you know, we're in a divine bubble of love, my friend. We are in a divine bubble of love. So let's take it back to the beginning for you. Let's talk about your family. Let's talk about, like, you know, where you were born into, because obviously you and I both know we pick our families.
Yeah.
This is our purpose. So if you could just share a little bit about your life growing up and the experiences that have led you to be, in my view, somebody who has lived this.
Yeah. Okay. So as a soul, I believe that I chose this embodiment to experience a long patterning within my soul lineage of the Sophia consciousness. And what has happened to the Sophia consciousness, the Sophia Christ consciousness, through my ancestral lineage with my physical DNA and bloodlines, and also my soul lineage. So there's two aspects. There's my physical DNA and there's my soul DNA, right? And both of those, in regards to me and my soul, my spirit, has experienced massive levels of trauma and massive levels of torture and human trafficking. So part of my journey here this time is to end it, to finish the cycle, and what I call the Sophionic mission, which is to clear the Dark Lords from the DNA, the physical DNA and the soul DNA, backwards and forwards throughout all space and time. You're done. We're finished. You're done. We're done with that. We're moving on now. So that's where we're at now. And on the planet as a collective, there are those of us who have that very strong mission within our embodiment to move this forward into the next phase, into the new earth embodiment, into the new golden age of Gaia, let's put it that way. So as a soul, I chose my mother. I'm not going to get into the past right before, because it's a little much for people, but just to say that I was born into a military family, secret military family, and to give myself credit, which I don't need to do, but my cousin was Neil Armstrong, and my father was a top secret engineer in the Navy. So I was born into one of the bloodlines that was very deeply involved in the Cold War and in NATO conferences every year and secret military projects and things that missiles, and my dad was the author of the Sidewinder missile, never got credit for it, but he was in fact the person that oversaw the development of it and executed it. And it's one of the missile is still being used today and will be for who knows how long. It's still one of the most famous missiles that ever existed. And so for me, growing up in that environment, my very first conscious memory was being in a playpen at 5 months old and watching my cousin walk on the moon, right? And then meeting my cousin at 7 years old and him shooing me away because I had too many questions, and him being skitzed out and looking over his shoulder while I'm asking him these questions, right? And because I was a highly, highly intelligent human being and child, I was too much, right, for the situation and was under a level of oppression that is insurmountable to describe to you, other than to say that I was groomed, literally groomed to be a world leader. And literally because of my bloodlines, I was put in a position that would essentially bring me to that level of power. However, the amount of torture and trafficking that took place with me my soul, knowing that I had chosen this to flip it on its head, did exactly that. And no matter what they did to me, it only made me stronger. It only made me want to rebel more. It only made me want to figure it out more. And I was, what did my dad say? Oh, he said, at 14, you were so beautiful. We didn't know what to do with you. I'm like, we? Who? What? Who are you talking about, Dad? Like, what are you talking about? You know, I mean, I had like a Secret Service agent guy, man in black, outside my window at 14 years old for a year because they were afraid that I was going to run and they had to watch me, right? Because I had just gotten back from being somewhere else, you know, so I knew too much. I definitely had too much information. And if I was to talk or if I was to say anything, all bets were off. Yeah. So I survived so many things. And the level of ritual abuse that I experienced created so many altars in my consciousness that I was literally a chameleon. I would move from one thing to the next, and I was whatever you wanted me to be. I could never be myself, even though my soul knew what was going on. My person was had complex PTSD. I was triggered 7 to 10 times an hour. Like I literally could not ground. I couldn't stabilize, and that was purposeful. I was targeted so that I couldn't stabilize. That was the whole point, is they had to make sure that I would never get enough power and stabilization underneath my feet that I could talk. Yeah. Because they knew that once I started talking, all bets are off and I'm going to connect all those dots, right? So I'm here to tell you that what I have survived, very few people survive. I should be dead 10 times over, at least, if not 100 times over. Most people like me never survive past the age of 30. And at 31 is usually when the electronic dissolution of memory and all the memories start coming back around age 30, right? So I survived that. I survived my memories coming back. They started coming back when I was 20. Wow. I was triggered, a memory was triggered for me by a person that I saw. And that person and I had been together in a secret program. And so what people need to understand is that human trafficking is very real, and it happens in all of these different ways, and it's rampant in our society. So it's not just like one thing or this thing or that thing. At the level that it operates now is beyond what people are ready to fathom.
And I just, sorry, just before you go on,
sure.
In my humanness, I believe, and maybe this is a complete incorrect assumption, but I believe there is a lot of people out there that believe children are taken and trafficked, but it's really dirty. But actually what you're saying, like it's the lower classes, it's just, you know, that kind of thing. And I just want to really highlight the fact that's not true.
Actually, it's not true at all. In fact, a lot of the people that you see in high positions of power are actually victims of the control. They are MONARCK, kittens of the sex, let's put it that way. They are literally handled. They have handlers. There are people that are constantly, so for example, in 2009, when I left Los Angeles, right, when I finally got out of the matrix, if you will, from the matrix of what I was experiencing, I had 7 handlers, 7 people that were constantly making sure that I did exactly what I was supposed to do, which was nothing about my life. Like nothing.
Just because a lot of people out there will be thinking, my God, like 7
Right.
handlers?
But that's actually not that many.
But what did that
Hitler had 11,
what
for
does
example.
that look and feel like, babe? Because for somebody like myself who's not experienced it this lifetime, like I can tap into how that would feel. But
Yeah. So what that felt like for me, realizing that was see, because the thing is you don't actually know what's going on when it's going on. Like you don't, unless you're aware of it. You could be living your whole life with handlers all around you and you wouldn't actually know that that's what's happening to you.
Yeah.
It's really hard to explain, but there's a level of psychic control that goes with it. And it's a science. You guys have to understand it's a freaking science, and they have it down and they know exactly what to do in every moment. And the reason why it's so easy for them to do it is because it's acting interdimensionally, right? It's so the person themselves who may be handling you, let's say, could be unconscious and be delivering an unconscious message, or be unconsciously being utilized by an interdimensional being to then target your core traumas and triggers and to set you off.
Absolutely.
To disempower you, to dismantle you.
Yeah, and I think just to bring it up to today's terms, I think we've got
Right.
a good example of that going on the planet at the moment, right? We've got this thing doing the rounds, okay? This is the thing doing the rounds. And basically we have half of the population-ish, give or take, that are so fearful and living in panic. And this is a psychological operation that's taking place right here.
100%.
And the other 50%, people like you and I, who have kind of like looked through all of it, we've sifted through it all, we've used our discernment and we've gone, hang on a minute, the numbers do not stack up with the severity of what's taking place. And obviously, we know that there's a much bigger picture taking place. So we're actually at peace with what's going on. However, there is 50% of the population, so near on 4 billion people that are freaking the heck out right now. And
I wouldn't say it's that many.
I keep being shown.
Well, I guess I'm looking at the United States. I guess if you look at the whole population of the earth, here's the bottom line. The mainstream output of information that is being fed through the black mirrors, through all the little black boxes all over the place, are controlled by a very small group. And that small group has had control since the turn of the 20th century, so the 1900s. That group is now losing control of the narrative. And as that happens, you're seeing the dismantling of the programming that existed within the output of the narrative. And so there are a lot of people still living in the narrative and cannot wrap their minds around the truth, because the truth to them is so foreign that they can't even accept it as reality. It's like, what? No, it's this.
Yeah.
And the truth is so clear. Yeah. The truth is so clear.
People that are prepared to see, and that's something that I just want to make sure that we're very clear on, right? There are people that have been, like where we got to with your story a minute ago, psychologically abused.
Yes, right. And this is what I was going to get to.
This is how we need to just put it into conceptual terms for people that haven't gone through what you've gone through this lifetime. You know, we need to show people that this is happening to you right now, at home, in your life.
Right. So what I wanted to speak to was dissociation. So by the time that I was 30 years old, back to my story for a second, by the time I was 30 years old, I had personally without even realizing what I was doing, but knowing that I had somehow I was given the tools to get out. Thank you for that, because I was able to dismantle 15 altars by the time I was 30. Okay. And so as my memory started coming back and as my stuff started wearing off, like the electronic dissolution of memory started wearing off. So what that does is when they do the EDOM, what it does is it pushes it back to the back of your consciousness, to the unconscious part of your brain. But then that, once those veils come off, they can only hold it there for so long, and then it starts to flood back. But what happens sometimes with people who have sexual abuse in their childhood, there's dark magic being used very specifically. And in my case, there was as well, where there's dark magic, and it's all part of the grooming process. It's all part of the mind altering process to create splits in the consciousness, to create fragments of personalities, different personalities that you may not even know that you have. But there's like different moods that you'll get in, and it's a very specific mood, and it's a very specific way of being. Those are altars, and those are caused from being dissociated through sexual trauma and through verbal and mental and physical and emotional abuse. And so most people right now are on some level dissociated from their soul. Their soul is not embodied or grounded in their physical person. And so it is easy for something to come in and move through them and for them to be under a spell. So what we're seeing play out is a spell. It's a big worldwide global spell that has been enacted upon us. And it's a ritual that we're in. And there's a lot of us that are not agreeing to that ritual. A lot of us are saying, I do not consent to that ritual. I do not consent to 8 billion people getting vaccinated. I do not consent to this. I refuse to watch the world receive something that they didn't, that is involuntary, and to have them convinced through fear and coerced into voluntary consent. No. And here's what's happening this year is 2020 clear vision, right? This year is all about, no matter what they do, they're not going to succeed, because the truth will just keep showing up. The truth will just keep revealing itself.
And
there will be no control of the mind by the time this year is over. And this is the wake-up call.
This is what's so important about this discussion, like what you have gone through. And I know we've had much deeper conversations, but obviously we need to, for those of you listening, we know we need to be very mindful of what we're speaking, because this video could get pulled. So we had the conversation before, and we just need to use certain language. So please do know that we are talking about the subject that you know we're talking about. Please go and research it if you need any more information. But we just decided that we were going to keep it at a level where when this gets scanned, because it will do, that it's actually going to remain out there. And what we need to be even more mindful of, like what you've been through is awful. You know, the conversations that you and I have had, it's absolutely hideous. To think that your family essentially allowed this to take place is just, for me, it's
they got paid for it.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Straight up.
And we need,
they got paid money.
Yeah, and we need to appreciate there is many people out there that
lots of money
you think are crazy, like shaving their heads and things like that in moments of madness, or what looks to be madness to the world. They have experienced the same things. And as much as we might think certain things from a human level, we need to have empathy with everybody that has been through this program, because
we have to ask questions. We have to ask, why would this person be acting this way?
Yeah.
Why would they have the motivation to do that? And then all of a sudden, why would they be accused of this, that?
Yeah.
And I could list so many people, but that's not what this is about. But just celebrities and people who are in positions of power that are harvesting energy loose from the population, right? And this is a concept that most people don't understand fully. So what they're doing through these rituals of performance, for example, is they're collecting energy. False flags also. Things like that, things of that nature. A high level of energy, of fear, of negative, whatever, gets amplified within the construct of the matrix, right? And then all that energy gets siphoned off and then stored and utilized by energies that are service to self beings, and they don't have their own source energy, their own vertical alignment with source. They don't have their own battery, and they need a battery in order to function. And so now they're using the human population as that battery. Okay, so right now we're in a battery situation where our battery is being siphoned. Our energy, our vital life force energy is being siphoned off and being used
and then
taken, stolen from us.
Population of people like yourself and myself who are so strong in our light. That is why we are being challenged by people from time to time.
Of course.
Because they fear, you know, their battery essentially is so low that they are fearing the light that they are seeing in other people. And it's so important that we grasp.
They want to squash it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and as I was speaking, as we were just speaking there, nearly pulled my laptop off, not ideal. Just by crossing my legs. Just proves it's live. What I would just like to refer to is actually the film Monsters, Inc. Now, I know that goes one step further, but if you look at the film Monsters, Inc. and you actually watch it, what they are basically showing us in that Disney movie is children essentially being scared and them taking their power. That's essentially what it is, right? I know we know it's linked to something else as well, but let's just keep in the context of what we're talking here.
Yeah.
It's their fear. And that to me is extremely resonant of what's going on right now. The levels of fear and panic on the planet are actually catapulting the darker forces and giving them energy. And this is why there are so many of us out there now that are stood speaking our truth, no matter what, no matter how much people abuse or, you know, any of those things, we're stepping up and staying in our truth. Why? Because we're actually doing this for the greater good. We're doing this for the collective consciousness. It's not because we're stubborn or we're a rebel or, you know, any of those things. There may be an element of that, but predominantly we are here as light workers and starseeds that are holding the force for the planet. We know a period of time where we need to increase the collective consciousness to make sure that everybody is safe.
And, you know, like for me, I've been doing that for so long. That's just who I am. That's how I function. That's how I operate. And my entire reality is focused on being of service and holding space. Like that is my entire fabric of my being, you know, and it has been since I was born. Like I literally came in with that notion, you know, like at 5 years old, this lady asked me what I was going to do when I grew up. And I said, heal the planet.
Yeah.
She looked at me and she goes, oh, honey, the planet doesn't need healing. What are you talking about? I said, by the time I'm an adult, it will. And I was like 5, you know?
It's a little whisper, darling. It probably did then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it was 1974, so yes. I just gave my age away, but that's all right. But definitely, you know, the consciousness at that time, they couldn't even conceptualize what I was saying, you know? It had just been the 60s civil rights movement and the hippies and like, what? We don't need to heal the planet. It's fine. You know, I'm like, by the time I get to be an adult, it's going to be a problem. Trust me. You know, like that's why I'm here.
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful that you stepped into your purpose, you know, with your infinite wisdom. It's beautiful that you stepped into that.
But it's not without pushing through walls of darkness and freaking black sludge.
I feel
to get here, to clear the freaking, to get everybody here on the planet that need to be here for the starseeds. I'm the one that sat there and went through the sludge, just so you know. Hi, that was me. You're welcome.
It's not. People say to me all the time, I wish I had your gifts. I'm like, I guarantee there's very few people that would actually, like you say, sift through the sludge. You're literally barefoot treading through shit, right? It's just squelching between your toes.
Walls of darkness, you guys. Walls. Wall after wall after wall after wall. Wall after wall after climbing up the wall, climbing down the wall, running through the thing, going up the hill and down the hill, and down over here and through that tunnel, and crazy.
It's pretty intense. Pretty intense, to say the least.
Dude, my entire life I've been on the freaking front lines, okay? Like, seriously.
And I think that it's really important to keep coming back to, because you've known all the way back that this was your purpose. I knew when I was a child that I had a purpose, but I got lost.
Yeah, I got lost too, of course.
I went and I was working in investment.
I got lost in Hollywood, for God's sakes.
So you went to Hollywood. I went to investment banking, like the levels. I mean,
and I was in corporate America, while I was in Hollywood too.
But this is my point, right? Every single person on the planet has this. They have the potential, and you've just been duped that you're not as powerful as you are, and you truly are. This is about lifting the veil. This is about just, if any of this, even if you think, wow, okay, I noticed that the television program is driving me to feel a certain way. Go look into how television programs are programming.
Tell-lie-vision. Tell-a-vision. Programming. It's spelling.
It's hidden in the name, everybody. It's hidden in the name. And
it's right there in front of you.
Yeah, but we just do not. We haven't been shown this. Some people haven't been shown this. And literally, there is no judgment when we say this. The reason we're having this level of conversation, and I call this a conscious conversation, right? I
call it a consensual conversations. That's my podcast.
Yeah, beautiful.
They're consensual conversations.
This is what
consenting to it.
Yeah. It's just, nobody knows better than somebody else. This is literally just a case of sharing what we as human beings this lifetime are stepping through, the challenges, the intricate details. Like, there are so many people out there that are not recognizing or realizing that mainstream media are programming you. And there's so many people, and listen, like, to a point we're like, how can you not get it? But at the same time, we're like, we get it. Like, I was one of those for a few years. I got lost in it.
We got lulled to sleep. We need to understand that even if we were critical thinking human beings, we're not stupid because this happened. There was actually a dark spell. Like, we have to understand that this is a spell we're talking about. It's dark magic. It's not like we just did this on our own and we were negligent. No, we were lulled to sleep.
Yeah.
And in a very calculated way.
Yeah. And just
calculated.
On that point, because I think this is really important, I've done 2 interviews recently with doctors, okay? Very well-known, high-profile doctors, okay? And they have been shocked. One of them woke up during lockdown, and he's gone, oh my goodness, I can't believe I didn't recognize the programming.
Wow.
And he's quit his job as a doctor, right? He's like, I can't do this anymore. I know I'm inflicting harm. Like, it's amazing what he's done. And then there's an incredible doctor that I was on a panel with the other day, Dr. Robert Young. And, he's been speaking out for years about certain subjects, and been being held back, and being, so many things have gone on with his life. And so whoever you are and whatever you're doing, know that we've all gone through this. Medical school, normal school, the education system, the policing system, the legal system, you name it.
The whole system.
It's every system.
It's designed to be broken for the majority to benefit the few.
Yeah.
And so now what we're going into is the complete reverse of that, where we're going into a financial jubilee and creating bounty and flow for every single human being on this planet. But we can't do that without dismantling the darkness. We have to bring it up. We have to bring up the underbelly of the beast, and we have to look at it. We have to process it, and we have to look and see the truth of what it is. And once we do that and we integrate it, then and only then is there an opportunity for us to heal enough to be able to receive the bounty that is our divine birthright. Our divine birthright.
And I think it's really important just for, people that are like, this isn't really quite making sense. We've been living in lack for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, thousands of years.
We've been slaves to a specific system
Absolutely.
That was designed and created for us to be slaves.
Exactly.
Period.
And what's happening now?
We weren't even aware of it.
No, absolutely. And this is why there cannot be any judgment for anyone, anywhere about anything. Now, the reason there is so much, I tend to use a really naughty word at this point, but I'm not going to. I'm going to mind my language because this is going out. There's so much noise, there's so much darkness, there's so much trauma that is coming out at the moment, is because this is a critical step in unlocking all of that, raising the collective consciousness, which basically means awareness. We're raising the awareness on all of this so that we can step into abundance.
Right.
That's basically the
undeniable, unlimited
absolutely.
Abundance.
So it's lack. We need to unlock the darkness so that everything can go and we can actually step into our human power, and then we step into abundance. Then we step into actually the kind of subjects that Saralise and I have been talking about for years. You can heal yourself. You can be extremely independent. You can have more money than you know what to do with. You can, work on the land if that's what you want to do. You can work with the other planets.
You can do whatever you want.
And that's you do not need to go and slave and pay all of this money to basically exist. And most people are existing in a very, very poor manner. Like, let's be real about it. There is enough energy on this planet for everybody. Everybody. There is enough food on this planet for everybody. We have been lulled into a complete false sense of security because of these systems.
It's a false construct. The matrix is a false construct, and it is literally breaking down before us. It is literally a mindset that was overlaid over top of our reality in such a way that we couldn't even see through it. We literally thought it was it. But as it dismantles and as it unravels and as we see the truth coming out in all the ways that they have pulled the wool over our eyes, right? We get to see the depravity that they created to keep us, because the bottom line is they're afraid of this level of power. They can't control this level of power. Anyone who thinks that they can vaccinate 8 billion people is not living in this reality, is not living in a reality where that is going to happen. That reality is not going to happen in this reality. Like, it cannot happen. There are not 8 billion people on this planet that would be willing to submit themselves. It's not going to happen. That is lunacy. That is complete lunacy. So understand that is the old construct that is revealing itself to you so that it can be dismantled. And it's literally falling apart in front of our faces.
That's why doctors are starting to step up and say,
right,
you actually looked at the ingredients in vaccinations?
Yeah.
And this is available for anybody to go research, by the way. You can literally just go and Google
fetal tissue, people.
You can go and literally look at the ingredients and ask yourself, why would you, like, if you had a cup like this one right here, if you put all of the ingredients in and you drank it, you'd be dead. But
right.
you're willing you're willing to allow it to go straight into your veins.
For fear of some boogeyman virus that is like no more than a common cold.
Yeah. You know, and it's,
we just watched a leader of the free world recover in 3 days.
Yeah.
Let's get real here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, this is why we need to come back to, are you in control of your mind, right?
Exactly.
Come back to that, because the God's honest truth is, I would say 50%. Saralise doesn't think quite 50%, but I believe 50% of the planet, as we know it, whatever beings they are they're not in control.
Well, no, they're not in control. They're complicit.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't mean that they don't know something's wrong, though, and aren't critical thinking beings, right? Yeah. They just don't know that they're under a spell. And so that causes a problem, because if they want to get out of the spell, they have to first admit to themselves that they're under a spell. And people don't want to admit that they're being controlled.
Well, people don't want to admit that at the age of 50 or 60 or 30 or whatever, that their life has been a lie. But for me, when I hit 35 and I was like, my whole life's been a lie, I was like, I've got to deal with this right now, right away, because I don't.
Well, that's what happens. Once you hit that breaking point, you can't ever go back. Once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep.
And why would you want to? Like,
you don't. You don't want to go back to sleep. You're like, I don't care what it takes. I am not going back to sleep. Yeah. Fuck that.
Yeah. And
excuse me.
Okay.
Sorry.
You let your passion out. But what I want to say to people is, so Saralise went through a program that was extremely designed to take away her mind, okay, take away her decision-making processes, everything, turn her into,
dismantle me and program me in a very specific way for a very specific purpose.
So she's an extreme, okay, and you might be sat there thinking, well, that never happened to me. No, you're right, it might not have happened to you. However, subliminally, through the day-to-day activities that we get, we are,
and the narrative,
we're all going,
we're being fed every single day.
And this is why I thought it was really important to have Saralise on, is because she's an extreme. Some of the things that she's gone through, obviously their subjects very, very dear to my heart, and I just love your vulnerability in sharing them, babe.
I mean, I didn't really share that much vulnerability because I felt like it would be a lot for people, and just understand that the level that it operated at in my life are nightmares. Yeah. They're horrific, horror, like absolute terror, trauma, torture. Like, you do not want to even talk about what I went through. That's how severe, and you don't come back from that very easily.
Well, most people.
And I will never forget what I went through. I still struggle on a daily basis with PTSD. I mean, I cured myself predominantly from PTSD, but it required that I rebuild my entire core health rebuild system from the ground up with cell salts and homeopathics. And because my entire body was depleted of vital life force energy, of minerals, like you name it, it happened. Broke my back, millions of pregnancies, only one child, like lots of things happened. And it's important to understand that, like, as I was going through it, I knew I was in it, but I couldn't get myself out of it. Right. And so I think that a lot of people are in situations where they know something isn't right, but they don't understand what action to take to get themselves out of it. And so there's no hope. There's no hope for the future. And so right now, that energy of that no hope for the future, they're trying to imprint that upon us so completely so that we don't have a way out, and we will succumb and surrender and do whatever it takes to get us to the next place. And we cannot allow that. We cannot, now is the time for us to stand up and say, we are sovereign beings. We do not consent to your control. We are sovereign in our divine birthright. We are here as humans. You don't get to determine our fate. You don't get to determine what's happening. Period.
And what I'm finding quite interesting at the moment actually is that there are people that are starting to uprise, but what's happening is people are starting to step up and speak. So I have to give a shout out to Liverpool here in the UK. They're doing an amazing job. So they've been locked down, a heavy lockdown, not allowed to go to the gym and stuff. All of the gyms.
Well, that's because of all the underground, probably. Yeah,
but the gyms in Liverpool have stayed open, and they're really just basically giving that to the government. And I'm so proud. I know that there's a mission taking place, but actually it's a few men that have really like taken the front of this, and divine masculine is rising, which is what has needed to happen.
And needs to happen because they've all been emasculated for so long, you guys. Like the men have really suffered. Like, I don't think enough people talk about that aspect of it, is that the divine masculine is rising up now. And this is exactly what needs to happen, because men have become emasculated through the system of control and easy instant gratification and depravity through pornography and sex addiction and online dating and like swiping left or right. I mean, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, that is not human to human connection. That is not, people are so desperate for connection. And now they've put us into isolation for 7 months.
And driving people against each other.
Exactly. And the divide and conquer, and then 6 feet apart, and wear a mask and don't show your face. And you become anonymous. You become unimportant. You don't become a unique individual.
Absolutely.
That's expressing themselves as a person, as a human being.
Absolutely. And this
as a soul incarnate, right?
And this is why I felt it was really important to mention that, because people are uprising, people are using their voices, but now there's the division that's kicking in. Oh, you're so selfish. How dare you go to a peaceful protest? How dare you? How dare you? And actually, this just shows the level of indoctrination.
How dare we not do that?
Yeah. And it's indoctrination, right? Oh, you're a bad person because you're speaking your mind. You're a bad person because you're breaking the rules. Well,
I could say you're a bad person for wearing a mask, and you're a bad person for causing a riot in my city and destroying property. Yeah. That's a bad person.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody's being turned against each other at the moment.
Right. That's a reversal spell.
Exactly.
That's actually dark magic. That's a reversal spell that has been initiated on the population. It's very specific.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting. A lot of the peaceful protests in London are being held somewhere, which is actually a satanic site.
Of course.
And I just can't go. People say to me, why are you not going? And I'm like, nah, like I can be on the outskirts, but I can't be, because these people are being
energetically.
Yeah. You know, and like, I have no judgment. I'm supporting everybody who is speaking out. Literally, I'm whatever it is that you're doing and you're speaking out, I am 100%.
Thank you.
Even if it's not in alignment with my vibration, I am so grateful to everybody.
Thank you for speaking your truth. Whatever you're doing, please speak your truth. Please, as long as no harm is done, speak from love, and please speak your minds. Please speak your truth. We need every single voice. Not one voice shouldn't be heard. Every single voice should be heard right now. Every voice can be heard. That is the beautiful thing about having this as well. Technology has given us the opportunity, actually, to be able to come forward and see each other.
Exactly. And, you know, it's very much a time where every voice matters.
Every voice matters.
You know, it doesn't matter what your subject is. It doesn't matter, you know, if it's BLM or, you know, vaccinations or what. Every voice matters. And there are so many of us around the world supporting everybody who is being a brave soul and stepping up.
And so I want to make something clear, that You just said BLM and vaccinations, right?
I chose a couple of goodies.
Well, but the way that you said it, they may think that if they're a part of BLM, that they're actually doing good. So here's what I want you to hear. It's not that one thing is bad and the other thing is wrong, and one thing is good and the other thing, like, the problem is the distortion in the field. So no matter what you're speaking for, no matter what you believe in, make sure that you yourself are clear and that you are not holding a distortion program in your field. This is the key, right? Because if you're holding this idea in your mind, and it's causing harm to another party, like abolishing the police, for example, that's not a clear idea.
Right.
That's causing harm to other individuals. That's not a clear voice for truth. Okay, so it is important for us to understand that, because there's so many people that are emotionally tied into rights, their civil liberties. Like, that is where they're getting and going for the jugular of these people. That our lives matter. You know what? All lives matter. And I know that's a trigger word, but by God, the children matter. Okay, like, the children's lives matter. If you understood what is happening, it would make more sense to you why they're rebelling against it, because they don't have a regard for life if they're acting and guilt tripping someone and making someone feel bad and say they're a bad person. There's no reason for any of that to be happening, period. That's dark magic. That's negative projection. And we don't need negative projection. We need positive unity consciousness and love for all of humanity, for all people, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, political affiliation. It doesn't freaking matter. This is humanity fighting for its sovereignty. This is a spiritual war. This is not a physical black, white, blue, red, whatever. It's not that at all. It's not two sides. They're two sides of the same coin. Get rid of the sides.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Anybody that is speaking up right now on a subject, have the intention behind what you are actually, and do your research. I think that's a really good, something that I keep.
Do your research. Back yourself up with solid facts. Know the facts. Know who's funding these projects. Know who's behind, who you're representing. Do not just step into a situation because you're emotionally charged and you want to express yourself. Yeah. Stop and take note and take a moment to figure out where you actually are resonating at.
Yeah. Don't
come from your pain body and your emotional body, because that's not going to do anybody any good.
No, exactly. And that's the main, or one of the main intentions that you and I agreed to whilst we were doing this, right? It's very much about, we're going to talk about a few subjects. Please go do your research. Please go and research everything that you need so that you can make a conscious decision whether this is in alignment or not in alignment for you. Okay, there is so much information out there.
I would love to hear about what you're doing with the children thing. I don't know enough about it, and I would love for you to share, because I would really love to then segue off into maybe some information that might be helpful for people in that regard.
Amazing. Okay, so I was very, very blessed to ask to speak at the initial Freedom for the Children UK rally in London back in August. by a beautiful young lady who reached out to me, and her friends basically set it up in America, in California, and they asked her to run it from a UK perspective. Anyway, she ended up stepping back for whatever reason, and myself and another lady stepped up and stepped into like taking it forwards. So very much the mission is around raising awareness, raising collective consciousness on child trafficking, child abuse, human trafficking generally, but you know, it's more about the children. Obviously, I've mentioned this on a few of my videos before. I energetically see what goes on in the tunnels. So it's not just on the physical plane, it's
Right.
underground as well.
It's underground.
Absolutely. So what we've been doing is, the way that we run our rallies is that we meet, we walk to raise the vibration, and then we do a meditation. And the meditation has an intention. I do the guided meditation. We set an intention. We pull everybody's hearts together, and we give, excuse me, we put love, we pick specific locations based on tunnels and where I'm guided. We put love down, and obviously we send love up, and we're basically putting a collective bubble around the planet for all of the children who are suffering, who maybe will suffer until we get this situation sorted. And, you know, like, start to do the healing on the planet, because there's so much trauma there, you know, yourself included. There's so much trauma there that if we start to raise the awareness and raise the energy around these people and put them in a protective bubble, then we know that we can do the healing work.
Right.
So that's
and that's what's coming in the future with technologies that have been held back from the public, that are going to be readily available, and there will be healing centers established that will be able to take in people and allow them. Yeah, well, you're part of my thing, so.
I was showing in 2018 exactly where it's going to be, like, exactly. Amazing.
Right. So we'll have a network of those available for people to come and heal from trauma and to reset their systems and heal from whatever. I mean, growing back limbs, for example. We'll be able to help all the vets coming home. We'll be able to help paraplegics and you know, the children and everything that they have been through. And then we're going to help all the people that have been victims of human trafficking. There's so much trauma, collective trauma in the system itself that will be healed through this process of unraveling. And once the truth hits the mainstream, and once it lands, and it will impact the world in such a way that we will never go back to the way that it was. There's no way it's ever going to go back. And once we do that, then we'll be in a position to support moving forward into the next phase. And it's here right now. I mean, we are living in a multidimensional holographic reality. Everything is happening all at the same time. What we've been shown and taught is that everything is solid, right? And my student was, one of my students today was talking about that, you know, and that came from David Icke, actually, that we've been convinced that everything is solid, when in fact, it's not, right? It's all multidimensional in nature. It's very holographic in nature. And so the healing apparatuses are holographic in nature, and they work on a subtle body level as well as the physical level. And so it's going to give us the opportunity to heal all the different layers of the body systems that normal allopathic Western medicine can't touch, because they're guessing all the time, like, oh, it could be this, maybe it's that over there. Like, no, it's not that. Let's find out what it really is, you know. And rather than it being a symptom-based reality, it will be a cause-based reality, and we'll be getting at the root causes of things and being able to heal them from that perspective. So it's going to make a huge difference in the way that we go about healing ourselves, because we're taking ownership of our bodies, of our beings, of our sovereignty, and stepping into our embodiment and fully incarnating here and fully being present and available for our experience on this planet. And so I wanted to speak to the thing that you were saying about the human, the children, I'm just going to put out some numbers. And you may have heard these numbers before, but just as an example. In New York, I believe it was March or April or May, somewhere in there, when the USS Comfort was brought to New York Harbor, 200,000 children were rescued from under New York City. Now, Melbourne, Australia just went through a lockdown in Victoria. 1 million children were just rescued from underground. You need to understand that's a lot of children. That's a lot of unaccounted for human beings in one city.
It's horrific.
Just take that in for a second. And more numbers come out every single day. And I personally had something to do when this started a year ago, last July 2019. My hometown had 2 earthquakes, and they blew up the underground base in my hometown because of what was happening there. And thousands of children were rescued.
Okay, where we do not have earthquakes, we've had 3 earthquakes.
Right.
We need to.
They're explosions, people.
Yeah. Because people are like, "Oh, earthquake? No."
There was one, I think, in Milton Keynes, another one in Luton.
They're all kind of around that area, and interestingly enough, it's very close to certain people's properties. So
certain people's properties.
You know, so this is a huge global mission. This is
huge.
And when you're
it's insurmountable, you guys. When we get the information about how many people are underground, trained individuals, trained soldiers that had to train for 2 solid years before this event to go underground into those circumstances, deep underground tunnels, to go and rescue as many of the children as they possibly could and to dismantle the undergrounds. Because not only are there tunnels, but there are whole bases. Yeah. There are entire cities underground, underneath our feet. If you want to know what's going on, look underground. Yeah. It's all going on down there.
And this is what is so important. Again, go and do your research. Don't take our word for it. Don't trust us.
Look up Gene Decode. You can look up Gene Decode, Gene Decode, and he has a list of underground bases and the ones that have been already done and then the ones that are continuing to happen. And he's just one person of many people talking about this. There's so many people talking about this. It's not just like an isolated event. You know, there are many, many people.
Global. It's a global problem.
It's a global effort.
And this is why when we go into lockdowns, and I get it's frustrating, but this is cleansing. This is what needs to take place for us to get where we need to be from a collective consciousness perspective. It really, really is.
It's so important that everyone listening to this, pray. Pray for the freedom of these children, the freedom of the people helping them, the freedom of all the people that are involved in this, and that their souls are rendered free from this enslavement and from this dark magic. So that's something you can do and be actively holding space in every single day, is you can be like, take a moment and just take a moment for the children, because primarily that will change the fabric of our existence, because that is where they have been holding and collecting our innocence and holding our innocence captive is through the children. The murdering, torturing, drinking of the blood, and killing and eating these children. Like, it is no joke what I'm talking about. This is real. And very famous people are involved in this. It's not just like random people. It's rampant across the entire planet. You can purchase right on Alibaba.com. You can purchase this substance, this drug that is supposed to give you immortality and, vital life.
Youth. For everlasting youth.
It's not, though. If you think about it, it came from a tortured child. It can't be.
Disgusting.
It can never be what they want it to be, because it's not theirs, number one. And number two, it's through the harming of another. So it's actually a reversal spell to begin with. And they think that it gives them power.
Well, this is kind of the belief system that has been enslaved on them, right?
Right.
That have latched onto them as batteries. But I want everybody to really go and research this stuff. So many of my subscribers already get this. They understand it. You'll be loving the fact that we're talking about this. But for the people that don't know, go and do some research. Literally just go and look it up on Google. I mean, I use DuckDuckGo.
Well, Google Chrome is a good start with the Chrome. And then one of their other operating systems is Adreno. So there you go.
Yeah.
So if you just reverse those two words and put them back in the other thing, you'll figure out what I'm talking about.
Nicely done, sister. Nicely done. I actually think that that's a really amazing place to end this conversation this time.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I'm so grateful to you for your time. I know it's super late over there now.
It's fine. I'll survive it.
I know you will. And I don't know about you guys, but comment below if you'd love to see more chats between myself and Saralise. I know we've got another couple lined up anyway, but do let us know if you want more stuff. But
yeah, I'm happy to do more of these. There's plenty to talk about forever and ever.
And it's going to, in fact, let's just finish on one thing, and then I'm going to stop the recording and then I can speak to you.
Sure.
I see 2021 as the year for disclosure. What's your feelings on that?
In what regards?
I feel everybody's going to learn everything. I think
yes,
coming.
And then 2022 is the year that we're going to travel and do all the building and establishing and repair of all the earth grids in a way that will then set up the new earth. Yeah.
Goosebumps. I'm all about the twos.
We're all about the twos, about the two. Oh!
Right, let me just stop the recording. Thank you to all of our subscribers.
Hi, everyone. It was lovely being with you. Thank you for being here.
I will see you in the next video.